Well, now we're going to head over to the United States, where U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris visited a makeshift memorial in Southern California that was built for the victims of last week's mass shooting at a ballroom dance hall.
The tragedy took place at the Star Dance Studio in Monterey Park on Saturday night, leading to 11 lives lost and 9 injured. The shooter was identified as 72-year-old Hu Can Tran.
Harris traveled to Monterey Park to meet the families of victims days after a mass shooter killed 11 and wounded at least 9 others inside the dance studio. Harris arrived at the Los Angeles International Airport shortly before 4:30 p.m. local time and was greeted by officials, including Monterey Park Mayor Henry Lowe, L.A. Mayor Karen Bass, and County Sheriff Robert Luna.
Her mother, Kate, then headed to the Monterey Park, where she placed flowers at a growing memorial outside the Star Ballroom Dance Studio, where Saturday night shooting took place.
While paying tribute to the victims at the memorial, Kamala Harris told reporters that she believed the Congress can change the legislation to prevent further mass shootings.
They have the power to. Can they do something? Yes. Should they do something? Yes.
Will they?
Will they do something? That is where we all must speak up and speak to our elected representatives about what we have a right to expect that they will do in the interest of the safety, the security, and the well-being of people like those whose lives were ended here and people around our country. They can. Yes.
Also during that visit, Madam Vice President also sent her condolences in regards to President Biden, First Lady Jill Biden, and also Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff. The Vice President also urged Congress, as we just reported, on passing reasonable gun safety laws. So this is where it kind of become the big question, right? I mean, mass shooting in the United States is not something that is it's not common anymore. It's very common nowadays, especially, the past year alone. So is gun control effective? That would be the big question, right? Well, throughout the world, mass shootings have frequently been met with a common response. Now, official imposed new restriction on gun ownership. There was a case in Britain that was 1987. A British gunman killed 16 people. The country then automatically banned semi-automatic weapons like the one that he had used. And then also in 1996, because of that new regulation, now the country has the lowest gun-related death rates in the developed world. Going to Australia now, there is a massacre in 1996, prompted a mandatory gun buybacks in which, by some estimate, as many as 1 million firearms were then melted into a slag, and the rate of mass shooting plummeted from once every 18 months to so far only 26 years since. So you see, if we make this gun regulation, especially in the United States, it would help. Now, the question would be next is, where does the U.S. public, issue or stand on this issue, correct? Now, there's a polling in regards to purchasing guns. More than 80 or 90% support on background checks, which I think it is very considered, at least. Now, nationally, a majority of Americans have supported a stricter gun laws for decades. There's a Gallup poll conducted in June found that 55% of participants were in favor of ban on the manufacture, possession, and sale of semi-automatic guns. A majority of the respondents can also support other measures, including raising the legal age at which people can purchase certain firearms, enacting a 30-day waiting period for gun sales, or even with tightened gun laws. So what gun control measure exists at the federal level as of current? Now, there's a baseline now governing who can buy, sell, and use certain classes of firearms, with states left free to enact additional restrictions. That's why I was kind of intrigued to know these mass shootings that happened in California, because California has one of the strictest gun law ever. Correct. And we know that the perpetrator actually got the guns illegally. Yeah. So then how could these illegal guns now can be purchased now? It's just very widely and very openly, correct? So why are some of the opponents, and we know this is mostly our Republicans, opposed for the gun law restriction? Because they think that it is the Second Amendment of the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, that they have the rights for all civilians or public of America that can protect themselves. So As of right now, we don't know where to go, but seeing the cases in Britain and also seeing the cases in Australia, in Canada, I think that United States have to do something about it. And this is the way to save lives. And then for the month of January alone, there has been 44 mass shootings that occurred in this month alone.
Right.
Wow, it's more than the number of days that we've
Exactly.
Yeah. So the argument continues as to whether or not an American citizen has a right to bear arms. But the bigger argument, or the more immediate argument, should be this man who perpetrated this particular shooting in Monterey Park used a semi-automatic weapon.
Correct, yes.
In my opinion, there is no, guns are for self-defense. Perhaps you need to defend yourself or keep a firearm in your home. But I don't think there's ever any case that I can think of where a civilian would need a semi-automatic weapon. A semi-automatic weapon, for our viewers that aren't familiar, is a weapon that can fire back-to-back without having to reload or even have to I don't know what you call it, you have to cock your weapon, basically. So this allows a shooter to just fire at will at a faster rate for self-defense, you might have to defend yourself with a firearm, but is there really a need for a semi-automatic weapon?
Right.
So again, this particular incident draws a lot of attention because not only did he use a semi-automatic weapon, which is very illegal, which is probably why he acquired it illegally, but the fact that he was an Asian American as well draws a lot of attention and raises many questions as to why. There's obviously been a huge outpouring and calls for policy changes, but that's always been the case with these mass shootings. However, beyond the help that's been focused on the victims, now experts and organizers are also urging, along with stricter gun laws, more mental health resources for aging people. Did you notice how both of these shooters were actually of a more
Senior
advanced age?
72
Exactly, above 60
old,
of
I
age.
believe, yes.
Correct, Russia. And there's been great scrutiny now of domestic violence within the Asian American community, something that we never hear of too much. In both cases, as mentioned, the shooters were older Asian American men. And in the case of the Half Moon Bay attack, the shooter actually had previously received a temporary restraining order for violence against a previous roommate of his. Now, the similar age profiles of both shooters have led to calls for more investment in mental health and economic resources as well for Asian American elders, which is a group that is very minor as well. The group often faces gaps in services due to stigma, a lack of cultural fluency among physicians, as well as language barriers. So again, these are not people that have as easy of access to mental health as well compared to other groups. So again, perhaps there should be a larger focus on these smaller groups that we don't think about, because again, this is very shocking to know, obviously not only from the incident, but who is causing these incidents to happen.
Really, just adding on to what you said, of the Republican are opposing for a stricter gun law restriction, because they said it is not the guns, but it is because of the criminals and mentally ill people bent on waging violence. That is correct.
They don't fire themselves.
That's right. But then because it is so accessible for you to buy guns, they have the right tools when they don't feel right, correct? So there has to be a win-win solution in this. Now, for decades, Monterey Park, I lived there for, I was born and raised there actually in Monterey Park, and it has been a haven for Asian immigrants. And, I feel do so because, seeking to maintain a strong cultural identity, and that's how I felt when I lived there.